Good afternoon, welcome to another Weather Studio Live. I'm Alex Burkle.
And I am Honor Criswick.
Well done. Honor Criswick this week announced that she'd only just discovered she'd been spelling and pronouncing my name completely wrong. Yes, there's no H in it. So how long have I known you? Years.
And it literally is.
Yeah, and you've been reading my name at the bottom of the lives.
I always thought it was Burke Hill.
Yeah.
I've been spelling it like that.
No, it's H-less.
Sorry.
It's all right. We get there. Welcome along. Hello. Thank you for joining us. As always, a usual Weather Studio Live that we have coming up. Honor will be heading to the board. I have an array of questions that have already been sent in. Thank you to those who've sent them either in last week's live, in the deep dive, or already in the chat this afternoon. And of course, wouldn't be a Weather Studio Live without a quiz.
I don't know how I feel about this one. I'm excited, but I'm nervous.
Yeah, for this week's quiz, I thought I'd go for a little look around the office.
Yeah.
So, that makes it sound different.
What did you find?
As in, so I wanted to discuss areas of forecasting world that people might not know that we do. And so the questions are quite varied, but they are actually weather related, which is a change to some
we
weeks.
don't usually do that, do we? We go totally obscure, spot the difference, riddles.
So good luck, because some of them, if you get wrong, it would be a little embarrassing.
Well,
some of them, it's fine to get wrong. So it's been a quieter week, really, than it's been through so much this September, but a chillier one as well. Let us know in the comments, are you enjoying the chillier nights that we've had of late? So it's nice waking up, isn't it, to crisp, sunny mornings, but I don't have heating in our house at the moment.
You don't have any heating?
No, we don't have any heating. The radiators aren't plumbed in because I'm still plastering and redecorating and stuff. And so we have no way of taking the edge off the temperatures other than the fire in the living room. And so,
so you've got one warm room?
Yeah, we have one warm room. And also we're not able to light that whilst the kids are awake because it's not really safe.
Bit of a hazard.
Yeah, a little bit. And so they get no warmth.
Okay, so, freezing children.
Freezing. Fortunately, we're not quite at freezing. Fortunately, the plan is to get heating back this time next week. So fingers crossed. But by then, next week's not going to be quite as chilly, so we probably won't need it as much. But I'm treading on your toes there, aren't I? Because you're going to tell us about what the forecast is doing.
I'll tell you all the details for next week.
Have you been enjoying the quieter weather? We're allowed to say quiet when it's happened.
But you've got to touch wood.
Yeah, but it's already happened, so we can't go back and change it.
I don't know. You might change it next week.
True.
You know, because it looks a little bit quieter, particularly across the south, but the northwest could see some spells of rain. But yes, I do enjoy a quieter spell of weather, but there's been quite a lot going on in the Atlantic and in the Northwest Pacific, so that's been something that we've been keeping an eye on as well, and I'm going to go into that in a few more details in a moment. Lovely.
I'm looking forward to your tour of the world.
Good.
Yeah,
good.
It's going to be a good one. Good one. So one question that we've had come in, which I liked the look of, so I wanted to answer.
Okay.
And I can't see it currently because everything's just gone suddenly black. But the question was, so apologies, I can't find out who wrote it, but it was following a warm, hot, sunny, dry spring and summer, what does that do to the chances of a cold or snowy winter?
Well, we double checked with the chief just before this, didn't we? And there's basically no correlation between that. So currently at the moment, nothing really, but I mean, it's always a bit soon to say anyway. We've only just got into autumn, so it's a little bit tricky to tell as we get into winter. But there was a couple of things that he said, wasn't there, that we could keep an eye on.
Yeah, like teleconnections, sea surface temperatures. There are lots of things that you can look at to get an idea of how things are looking. And I'm just trying to look at something that ECMWF produced, looking that far ahead. And I'm trying to get my head around it. But I think it's hinting at signs that the winter would be slightly warmer than average, if anything, based on everything it's looking at. But I have to admit, the Chiefs just sent me a chart that I've not really looked at before, so I'm trying to interpret it as we go. But sometimes there are lots of things that you need to look at, and one thing that the Chief did highlight is trying to predict seasonal forecasts around the mid-latitudes is notoriously trickier than it is around the tropics because of the variability. And so, you know, winter doesn't start for another over 2 months, so that's a long way away. So trying to predict that with any sort of confidence is just too far ahead at the moment. It is less than 3 months till Christmas, though.
I know. You keep
why
reminding
are you saying that's
me.
a bad thing?
I just think it's too soon. Like, let's get Halloween done,
Let's get
we can talk
Halloween.
Let's talk about Halloween. We've just got into autumn, and then we'll discuss Christmas. You're stressing me out because usually by this point of the year, I've kind of got an idea of presents I'm going to get, and this year I've got no clue. Hopefully not too many of my family members are watching this.
Oh, presents you're going to get your friends and family?
Yeah.
Not presents you're going to receive?
No, although I
okay.
might be putting a list towards my family. I've got more of an idea of what I want to get.
Good.
But not what I'm going to get them.
Good. Well, but you've got loads of time.
We've got time. We've got time.
We digressed, but we'll come back to that. We have most of our Christmas presents already for the kids.
Really? Don't you reuse your Christmas presents?
We do reuse our Christmas presents.
The children aren't watching.
Yeah, my almost 2-year-old, she won't have a clue that she's getting the same presents that she got.
You just rewrap them.
That Josh got, my son got previously. And also we have in 1 year given my son the same present 1 year, and then the next year.
And he didn't have a clue?
No, he had no idea. So, and it was just the fun of unwrapping something.
Yeah.
So that's my little, cost-saving trick.
I don't think I'll get away with that for my sisters in their 20s and 30s, but, you know, I could try.
You could try. You could try. Right, we talked about the weather being quieter, and it has been.
Yes.
We've had high pressure across us, but it's not totally quiet. In fact, actually, this weekend, we do have some warnings out.
We've got a couple of warnings issued this morning. I'll go to the board so I can show you and try not to trip over my mic. But yes, let me see if I can get the warnings up for you and press on the right button. So yes, a couple of rain warnings have been issued this morning across western parts of Scotland and eastern parts of Northern Ireland. So both rain warnings, Alex, you might have to double check the timings for me, but they're through much of Saturday from early morning through into the evening.
So the Northern Ireland one starts at 7 and the Scotland one starts at 8?
Yeah, I think that's about right.
And then the Scotland one goes all the way until the end of the day, whereas the Northern Ireland one ends earlier on in the evening.
Okay, there we go then. So a chance, we've got this frontal system moving through initially into Northern Ireland and then later into western parts of Scotland, but it stalls slightly, so it's likely to bring some quite persistent outbreaks of rain, possibly some heavy downpours, and there is a chance that we could see some localised disruption, possibly some localised flooding in these areas. So keep an eye on the website for further details if these do impact you. And we probably will see a fair amount of rain as we go into, let's just make sure, here we go again, I always press the wrong one here. Go over here. Switch that off, here we go. So as we go into Saturday, we're probably going to see a fair amount of rain, particularly moving into the west, but it will eventually brighten up across parts of Northern Ireland. But this is pretty much where that front is going to sit through most of the day. So to the east of this, actually tomorrow, it's going to be a mostly bright day. There might be some isolated showers, very light showers, just pushing into parts of the east and southeast. You'll be quite unlucky if you catch one, I think. So sunny spells, a mix of cloud as well, but mostly dry. But it's those western areas, particularly parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland, where you're going to catch the bulk of the rain. But otherwise, it's not too bad a start to the weekend, away from the west.
But, well, it's a quieter start around the UK. More activity going on around the world, isn't there?
There is more activity going around the world. Actually, we had a question earlier, and it was a really good one. What is the difference between typhoons, cyclones, and hurricanes? Now, the short answer to that question is actually there is no difference. They're both intense, large-scale areas of low pressure that take place when there's warm tropical waters. So the only difference is whereabouts they're located across the globe. So if they occur in the Atlantic or Northeast Pacific, they're called hurricanes. If they take place in the Northwest Pacific, they're known as typhoons. And if they take place in the South Pacific or across the Indian Ocean, they're known as cyclones. But they're all pretty much the same thing, and they all need similar ingredients to get going. So one of them is warm tropical waters, so sea surface temperatures need to be around 26.5 degrees or higher. They also need to occur around 5 degrees north or south of the equator in order to spin up into storms. And also you need just the right amount of wind shear, which is the change of wind speed and direction as you move up into the atmosphere. Because if you have too much wind shear, actually that tears the storm apart and that halts development. So you just need the right amount. It's actually quite little amounts of wind shear. But in order to be classed as a hurricane, a typhoon or a cyclone, you need wind speeds of 74 miles per hour or more. And actually across the globe, we've got quite a lot of activity, as Alex was saying, particularly in the North Atlantic. But before we talk about that, I do just want to move over to the Northwest Pacific, where once again we've had quite a lot of activity. So if I just zoom in here and move over to Saturday, here where we can see the winds spinning around. This has actually just been it's just gone down actually to a tropical storm below, I think it's been named, but it's likely as we head towards the weekend and the winds intensify, it will move back up to typhoon status. So this is likely to bring in some pretty strong winds, particularly across parts of Vietnam. We could potentially see gusts of around 130 miles per hour. Still a lot of uncertainty as to what the max gust speed is going to be, but some intense strong winds. And not only this, but it's going to bring in some heavy outbreaks of rain over the weekend, particularly across parts of Vietnam, also southern China and parts of Laos too. And this comes straight after another tropical storm, which we've had earlier in the week, and it was actually named Typhoon Ragasa. And that also brought some strong winds and heavy outbreaks of rain. So not long after, we've got another typhoon moving through, so not much time in order to recover from the impacts. Let's move back over to the North Atlantic, because there is a chance that this could potentially impact the weather that we see across the UK after next week. So if I just zoom in a little over here, so this area of low pressure here, this is currently over the Azores. This is what we've been talking about through much of the week. This is now ex-tropical storm Gabrielle, currently moving across the Azores. We've had wind speed gusts of around 96 miles per hour recorded here. Now, we were looking earlier in the week at the potential tracks, whether it was going to track slightly further north and impact parts of the UK, but we haven't really seen that track develop. It more just created some uncertainty across the UK weather for this weekend. Now we're a little bit more certain that ex-tropical storm Gabrielle is actually going to track eastwards, potentially bringing some strong winds and heavy outbreaks of rain to parts of Portugal and also parts of Spain, or it may just kind of spin around coastal areas. So still definitely one to watch. And it's been with us for a fair few days, all because it didn't really get caught up by a strong or significant jet stream. But if we move our way further west, there's a couple of other developments that we need to keep an eye on. Actually, this morning, this one here has now been named Hurricane Humberto. So this, once again, some strong winds, some heavy outbreaks of rain, quite an intense area of low pressure just to the southeast of the US here. But there's also this other area of development, which could potentially become another tropical cyclone or potentially another hurricane. And if so, this would be named Imelda. But this one is a little bit more intense, just purely because of its location to land. So notice it's just off the coast of Miami, quite close to the Bahamas. So there's the potential there for it to create more impacts with its strong winds and heavy outbreaks of rain, purely because of the location of this area. So more population of people that it could potentially impact. Not only this, but as we head further ahead, there's a chance that these two developments could also dance around each other a little bit. It's actually called the Fujiwara effect, where these two kind of dance around and potentially create even more severe impacts here as they do so. Now, in relation to UK weather, they can create a bit of difficulty. If we just zoom out and move back over to the UK, I'm going to go over to Monday. Notice that high pressure is starting to build back through. So the southern half of the UK, for example, is likely, as we head into next week, going to see dry, settled conditions once again, some sunny spells. Low pressure never too far away, so the northwest could potentially still see some rain as we head into next week. But then after that, it's all very much dependent on what happens with these two, well, the Hurricane Humberto and potentially a secondary one, because if they start to get picked up by the jet stream, they could potentially drift towards us in the UK, or we could see something similar to what happened with Gabrielle and actually just drift further south, and all it really creates is uncertainty in our forecast. So just to kind of illustrate this, I've got what we call a Hofmöller diagram showing the pressure differences in the past as we move higher up on the graph, and also in the future as we head further down. This horizontal line is about the latitude of the UK. So where these lines meet, this is whereabouts the UK is. So if we look at point number 1, you can see by these green colours, that's largely low pressure dominating. So as it drifts in from the west, this is for this weekend, we've got area of low pressure, that frontal system moving through, bringing us some unsettled conditions. Now, as we head into early next week, we see more of these yellows and these orange colours start to move through on the graph. So that's high pressure building back through what I just showed you earlier, some more settled conditions. But notice on point 2, if we look over to the west, once again a return of these more green colours, so low pressure potentially starting to move through in from the west. And then if we look at point 3, that's high pressure eventually breaking down, and possibly as a result of Hurricane Humberto drifting across the Atlantic and breaking down that high pressure, and there's the potential there for us to see some unsettled conditions. But the main point is, because of what's happening over across the Atlantic, that creates a lot of uncertainty in our forecast as we head over after next week.
Really good. Thank you, Anna. That was what a lovely tour. I loved when you zoomed out and took us all around the world.
If only it was that quick in real life, that would be great, wouldn't it?
You could visit your friends in New Zealand and Australia more often.
I could.
Your dad has responded. So, and I think you semi-answered this, but why do we have 3 names then for the same thing? Cyclone, typhoon, hurricane?
I mean, I think it's just different areas calling them slightly different things, isn't it? I don't think there's any real reason. It's just very much dependent on whereabouts those areas of low pressure develop across the globe. I'm pretty sure there's no real difference. It's just really probably just trying to make our lives that little bit more difficult in order to remember. But they're essentially the same thing. They're just named slightly differently depending on whereabouts they are in the world.
Yeah, and whilst you've got that chart up, it's a good one to have. Martin Westwell has asked, what dictates the path of a hurricane?
Oh, you're testing me now. We discussed this earlier, didn't we? So essentially, as the Earth's spinning, it actually spins faster at the equator than it does at the poles. So if we have an area of development here, for example, as it drifts its way northwards, begins to spin its way eastwards, all due to the Coriolis effect, which in the northern hemisphere will deflect things to the right. In the southern hemisphere it will deflect things to the left. So that's why we see a slightly different direction depending on which hemisphere you're in. But another thing to add to that is actually if you're in the northern hemisphere, areas of low pressure will turn anti-clockwise, and if you're in the southern hemisphere, the low pressures turn clockwise. And that is all due to something, it's also due to the Coriolis effect, I think. And then there's another word which I'm trying to think of, but I can't remember. But it's all essentially down to the Coriolis force and the spin of the Earth depending on which hemisphere you're in. So yeah, I hope that was probably a very basic answer. But yeah.
So yeah, hurricanes in the northern hemisphere, obviously, they generally track northwestwards initially, but if things like the subtropical high, if there's a weakness in that, then that can shift them further eastwards. And when it comes to the strength of them, the sea surface temperatures, any wind shear, like you discussed with Julian previously, that all influences the forecast track that it's going to take.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if you want more information, actually, we did talk about it with Julian in our deep dive on Tuesday. We went into quite a lot of detail about why this hurricane season's been so quiet, why it's starting to ramp up now, and it's a really, really good one. And also Julian, big shout out to Julian, because he actually went through the deep dive, looked at all your questions, and he's answered pretty much all of them. So I'm going to go back into the YouTube comments on my deep dive and give you all of Julian's answers. So yeah, big shout out to Julian for coming on the deep dive and then answering all those questions for us.
Wild Limited has asked, how heavy is the rain at the weekend going to be, and is it heading south or east?
Oh, okay. Let's take a look. Oh, I guess we could get up some rainfall totals, couldn't we? If we're feeling crazy, and if I press on the right button. Is that the right one? Here we go. Right. So this is 3 hour totals. So obviously the heaviest rain is going to be across the west, where we have those weather warnings across western parts of Scotland, eastern parts of Northern Ireland. That's where the rain's going to be quite persistent, so linger through much of the day, and also we could see some heavy downpours. So that's likely where we'll see the kind of heaviest outbreaks. I think the warning describes kind of 30 to 50 millimetres of rain, but across western Scotland, particularly across western upslopes, there's a chance we could get up to 70 millimetres of rain. And this is pretty much what this is showing here as we go through. These are 3 hour totals. So it's picking up particularly those warning areas, and high ground as well is where we're going to see those the heaviest rain as the air kind of lifts and condenses. We tend to get heavier downpours here. So across kind of eastern parts of Northern Ireland, western Scotland, where we see those weather warnings. But it's likely that we'll also start to see some rain push into western parts of England and Wales through the course of Saturday as well. And these kind of yellowy red colours are indicating where we're likely to see the highest of the rainfall totals. So intense outbreaks of rain, particularly across Scotland, Northern Ireland, and then through the day, western parts of England and Wales. Central parts of England, parts of the east and southeast should be mostly dry, but there is the chance of the odd isolated shower, but they're not likely to be very intense. So there we go.
Nice. Mikey has asked, how do we get storms in the UK as our waters are cooler than you need for a hurricane, but how do we then get our storms developing?
That is a good question, because sometimes we can see kind of ex-hurricanes move across the Atlantic, picked up by the jet stream. They're no longer hurricanes by the time they reach the UK, because like you say, we've got cooler waters, the wind speeds tend not to be quite as strong, but we'll still name it as a storm as it comes through, depending on how the strong winds, how strong the winds are as they move across the UK. But otherwise, we can just see quite intense areas of low pressure. For example, depending on whereabouts they're sat in the jet stream, if they sit on the cool side, that tends to be where we see areas of development. We can see rapid cyclogenesis take place, which I think is where the area of low pressure deepens by about 24 hectopascals in 24 hours. Which I think is what we saw with Floris. Might have to double check that one. But anyway, so we get areas of low pressure that will spin up if they're on the cool side of the jet stream. That intensifies them. And then depending on how strong the winds are going to be, how strong the impacts are going to be across the UK, that's when we start to look at possibly naming some storms. So that's one example of how a storm could spin up into the UK. Or once again, we could potentially see ex-hurricanes move across into the jet stream and bring us some wet and windy weather in the UK.
Thanks very much, Anna. We've got lots more questions, but should we do some of them after the quiz? Let's get the quiz done and we'll come back to the questions. So welcome back to the desk.
That sounds good.
As I mentioned at the start, the theme for this quiz, well, I wanted to appreciate the different parts of the office that maybe you weren't aware of. So looking at the different kinds of forecasting that we do here, we're not just about producing the forecast that you get to watch on the app or on YouTube, or we're not just here for the Weather Studio Live. We do lots and lots and lots of things. And actually both Anna and myself, we spent some time as meteorologists before becoming presenters, working in our operations centre.
We did.
Or Services Operations Centre as it's now called, here discussing, well, doing a variety of different forecasts. Yeah. And so I wanted to appreciate that for today.
I like that.
So one of our more exciting areas of forecasting that we like to talk about, but we actually don't talk about enough, to be honest, is space weather.
Yep.
So question one is about space weather.
Okay.
Right, brace yourself. Which type of solar weather event is most likely to cause a sudden, short-lived radio blackout on the sunlit side of the Earth? You with me?
No.
Cool. So A, a coronal hole high-speed stream. B, a solar flare. C, a CME-driven shock. Or D, a solar wind sector boundary crossing.
You've gone up to 4 answers.
Yeah. I've been peer pressured by the other 2.
I feel betrayed. Okay, I'm going to have those again, I think.
Yeah, fair. I get you. So which solar event's most likely to cause a radio blackout on Earth?
Okay.
Is it a coronal hole high-speed stream, a solar flare, a CME-driven shock, or a solar wind sector boundary crossing? I would point out that I didn't write this question. I got one of our space weather meteorologists to write it.
And I'd
Thanks,
just like
Rebecca.
to point out I never worked on the space weather department.
That is fair. This one...
Okay, I've gone for a guess because I don't know. So I've just gone with the one that I've actually heard of.
That is a sensible idea. Let's see if anyone else has answered. Lots of people also going with solar flare. Solar flare seems to be the winning thing. I think that's because people have maybe heard us talk about that in the past.
Yes.
Great. Question 2.
Okay.
Now, a big forecast that many people will be aware of is the shipping forecast. That's written by our marine bench here at the Met Office. How well do you know it? In the shipping forecast, which area comes in between Cromarty and Tyne? Is it A, Fisher, B, Fitzroy, C, Fastnet, or D, Forth? Now, if you think about where they are,
What?
I suppose if you don't know where they are, then that's no help.
Do
If you
you
think
know
about,
where they are?
well, yeah, because
I
know the answers.
Well, yeah. But before, did you know?
Well, Tyne's pretty obvious, isn't it?
Yes.
You can imagine where Tyne is.
Yes.
But some of the others are kind of harder to pinpoint.
So
which area comes in between Cromarty and Tyne? Fisher, Fitzroy, Fastnet, or Forth? I think lots of people will know this. So,
Really?
Yeah, so I'm not going to tell you what the most popular answer is, because lots of people are getting this right. But it's
I've seen the shipping forecast before. I might just go for the one that are they all... Yeah.
I didn't...
Okay. I might just go for the one that I recognise.
Well, okay, theoretically you should recognise all of them, but...
Yeah, you'd think, wouldn't you? Fastnet threw me off. I don't know where.
Lots of people, so similar to last time, about 60% are going with Forth, which is D. So, question 3.
No.
Question 3. So another partnership that we have here at the Met Office is with the Environment Agency, and as part of that, we actually have a flood forecasting centre where the Environment Agency deal with water once it's fallen. We deal with water when it's falling, and so the combination of the two working together to give guidance on flooding. So a question that came from our flood forecasting team, during summer months, which type of natural flooding typically occurs most frequently?
Ooh, okay.
Is it A, coastal, B, river, C, surface water, or D, groundwater?
Ooh.
So if you think of the type of weather that most likely or causes the most impacts during summer months, and why is it?
I was going to say. Okay.
Okay, you send your answer in.
Showers.
Let's have a look at
I'm thinking heavy, thundery showers.
So lots of people, so Martin has also said surface water, but various few other people. Most people seem to be going with surface water. Seems like a popular choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like this. People are going with the same answers I'm thinking of, so I'm feeling positive.
You're doing well, and I think you'll get this question as well because it's aviation based.
I should get this one. I really should.
Yeah, for planes to take off and land, they have to have a forecast before they to do it. So airports around the country, around the world, get a forecast. What are forecasts called? This isn't the question. TAFs.
Terminal area forecasts.
There we go.
Are you sure that's not the question?
No, that's not the question. So we send TAFs to airports around the country.
Yeah.
Actually around the world with our various places, frontline stations, with that information, they're able to guide their pilots, and pilots are able to land and take off safely. But what does QFE indicate?
Oh.
So is it altitude, flight level, pressure at the airfield, or humidity at a certain altitude?
I'm glad those were the options because I know there's QFE and there's QNH, and I always used to get the two confused. So that would have been a much harder question.
Okay, so just in case you missed it, so QFE, what does it indicate? Altitude, flight level, pressure, or humidity? Pressure at the airfield or humidity at a certain altitude?
My uncle will be really annoyed if I get this one wrong because he's the one that took me up on the plane.
Oh, in the glider?
Yeah.
Was it a glider? Oh no, was it?
No, it was a plane.
It was a plane.
Very small
sorry.
plane.
Ah.
It was Aiden that went in the glider.
It was a glider.
Yeah.
Lots of people, about 50%, are saying pressure at an airfield, so going with C.
Mm-hmm.
So, but a fair few people saying a
I
variety
hope
of
I've got
different
that right.
answers.
You know when you think you know the answer, but then you start to doubt yourself. I'm having that at the moment.
So then so question 5, another team that you've worked on. I've worked on this one as well. I did aviation as well, but we won't go into the list of the ones I've done. But
a long time ago.
A long time ago. You wouldn't trust a tap that I've written. Then question 5. One of our big customers with the media services team is ITV.
Woohoo!
Who marked a special birthday earlier this week.
Oh,
But
this week?
This week, on the
Oh.
22nd. So what was that, Monday? Monday. It was the equinox. Ooh,
Oh.
I wonder if that's why they chose. No, probably not. Anyway, did ITV turn A, 60, B, 65, C, 70, or D, 75?
I didn't know they had. I thought. I don't know.
Not ITV weather, but ITV as a channel.
Okay.
It was.
Still don't know.
it started on September the 22nd, either 60, 65, 70, or 75 years ago.
For some reason, 60 is in my head, so that's what I've gone with, but I could be wrong. I can't believe I haven't spotted anything.
Well, that's me too.
This week. The weather's been so exciting, I haven't taken in anything else.
Right, let's see what other people are saying. Lots of people have disagreed with you. Even your dad, Cry, has gone with C, but it's a guess. Lots of people saying 70.
Oh,
So
I went for
we'll
60.
see. Yeah, 60% are going with 70. So I think lots of people have done quite well in this quiz because the majority seem to have got the answers right, which I don't know why we need to go through the answers then, because I've just told you if you're paying attention to the polls. But we will do. You've done very well indeed.
Have I?
Not 100%, but you've done very well. So question 1 was, which type of solar weather event is most likely to cause a sudden, short-lived radio blackout on the sunlit side of the Earth? It is, of course, a solar flare.
Okay.
The others are terms that I wasn't really totally clued up on.
Yeah.
But solar flare I understand, and so that can cause it. But I think we've all heard the time of solar flares talk about.
It's in a lot of movies, I reckon.
Yeah. In the shipping forecast, which area comes in between Cromarty and Tyne? And the answer is D, 4th.
Oh, it was.
So you did get it right.
It must have been there somewhere in my mind for me to...
Yeah, I'm surprised that was the only one you said you'd heard of when...
No, no, I'd heard of some of the others, but there was, what was it, Fishnet?
Fisher.
Fisher.
That's like one of the big famous ones.
Is it?
Yeah, and then obviously Fitzroy and Fastnet.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
No, it was Fastnet. Fastnet was the one throwing me off. I can't remember.
Anyway, 4th
right.
is the right answer, and so well done if you got that right.
Okay.
Then question 3, during the summer months, which type of natural flooding typically occurs the most frequent? And you said?
Surface water.
Correct.
C.
Yeah, surface water. When you get your intense thunderstorms, when you get your heavy rain falling in a very short period of time, the ground just can't absorb it. So it's not a case that the rainfall totals were really high. It's just a case that it can't go into the ground quick enough. And so then you get surface water flooding, which is more likely, in the summer, that's the most likely type of flooding.
3 out of 3.
3 out of 3, you're doing well. Question 4, what does QFE indicate? And you correctly said it's C, the pressure at an airfield.
Pressure.
Extra points if you know what the acronym stands for.
Oh, QFE.
It's a trick question, it's not an acronym at all.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, surely I would remember that.
Yeah, there is no acronym. It stems from Morse code back decades
does
ago.
it?
Decades ago, yeah, we got the code QFE, so it's not short for anything.
Oh, okay.
But I was wondering if you were going to try and come up with something, because I was stumped when I was thinking.
QFB is not, they're not easy letters to work with.
No. And then last but not least, question 5. ITV marked which birthday earlier this week? It was their 70th birthday.
I'm so nice.
You were doing so well.
I could have got my first 5 out of 5.
You could have got your first 5, but no, you fell at the final hurdle.
Oh, that's really sad. If I just paid a bit more attention.
Yeah. A few presenters had celebrated it earlier this week. Yeah. And I don't know how
I've missed that. I follow them all on Instagram.
Yeah, 70, but I guess if it was 75, that would have been a bigger deal, I guess. Let us know how you did. I think lots of people managed to get 4. Paul James got 4 out of 5. Let's see if anyone got. Oh, your dad did as well as you, so I cry. Sylvain got 3 out of 5. Mark Vogan Weather got 4. Lots of people getting 4. But DHL UFC got 100%, and they think they're going to cry, which is we're proud of you. I'd be crying too. So well done. World Limited said poor honour, but I think you did very well. So you can hold your head up high. And to be fair, I said the questions were weather related. The last one wasn't.
Yeah. Usually I do better on the non-weather
and so you definitely didn't embarrass yourself as a meteorologist, because the weather ones you nailed. Got 4 for 4. So big well done. I don't know why I'm saying that with surprise. Of course you got 4 for 4. Why wouldn't you?
I don't know to be offended or...
minor offence. But anyway, a couple of other questions that have come in.
Yes.
So Gary Hurd asked earlier, forget about winter, it's too far away, but how's October looking? And actually early signs are for it to be wetter, windier, but also a bit milder, warmer than average. Now, when we give our seasonal, when we give our monthly forecast, that's the kind of thing that we give, is just a trend of what's more likely. And really it just shows, looking at a variety of things, it just suggests that wetter than average is more likely than drier than average. But when it comes to probabilities, there's always a chance that, the less likely probability still wins. Everyone knows how betting, gambling, horse racing, etc. works as well. So it's no guarantee. And also, with that kind of setup that you'd be expecting, you'd imagine most of our weather would be quite mobile, and so coming in from the west. And so Gary's mentioned that in North Norfolk, they're still suffering with limited rain after this especially dry spring, a lot of dry weather during summer. And so with that mobile westerly pattern, similar to what we're seeing with the band of rain that's coming through this weekend, not a huge amount of rain is necessarily going to reach eastern, southeastern parts of the country. So there will be more rain on offer than we've seen through summer, through spring, and through large chunks of September, but not necessarily enough rain in the places that necessarily need it. Another question that's come in from Kim Bozaval, regarding the cyclonic winds, and talking about the Coriolis, is that what causes the direction of the water going down the plug in different directions in the northern and southern hemisphere?
No, that's a classic, isn't it? People always ask about that, but no, it's not. Because essentially, water going down a plug, it's too small of a radius, circumference? I'm trying to remember now.
Both?
Which one's all right? Yeah, basically both. It's basically too small. In order for the Coriolis force to take hold, it needs to be literally on a planetary scale. So because the Earth is so huge, and then we see the spin of that Earth take hold as we see initially small scale areas of low pressure then spin up into potential hurricanes, you need that kind of large scale kind of a system in order for your Coriolis force to take place. And that's what's making things deflect to the right in the northern hemisphere and then to the left in the southern hemisphere. So it needs to be on a scale as large as a potential hurricane rather than just...
Well, not quite that large. Well, your little low pressure centre. But it needs to be much larger than your sink.
But obviously, that's what I'm essentially trying to say.
I think the design of the sink probably has a bigger impact than the Coriolis effect.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I wonder if you could get...
Yeah, probably could.
A special shaped sink.
Yeah. Martin Baines has asked, how much has the recent rain helped with areas with very dry conditions?
Yeah, it's certainly helped, hasn't it? I haven't looked at anything directly, but as you say, there's still areas of the east and southeast that are still quite dry. I don't know if any areas are still technically in drought. unless you know otherwise. But even after the initial rains, some areas were technically still in drought conditions, but I don't know if that's changed. I'd have to double check that. But particularly in the west, with all the systems that have come through, we've seen a change. But parts of the east and southeast are still relatively dry.
Yeah, and the problem is we needed a lot.
Yeah,
we said, I remember talking about this on the live a few weeks ago, that we needed a lot of rain through autumn for the conditions to be alleviated and for the ongoing conditions not to get worse. So yeah, it wasn't going to be a quick fix. And so whilst we have had some rain in September, it hasn't been loads. And actually, speaking of that, we have had a question about September. Kieran Dillon asked, so far are temperatures for September below average, particularly about minimum temperatures? And I had a quick check, and actually, surprisingly, compared to how it might feel recently, temperatures through September have actually been a bit above average. With the unsettled weather that we had, didn't really feel that warm as such, but during the first half of September, they were above average. And even in this spell that we've been in through this week, minimum temperatures have only been a little bit below average. It's not really unusual for us to get, close to a touch of frost, a nip in the air at this time of year when you get more settled weather. So yes, the last week or so have been ever so slightly below average, but through much of the rest of September, temperatures have been a little bit above. So actually, as a whole, we're a bit above. And also, I think you mentioned temperatures are picking up a little bit as we go into next week, or through this weekend and into next week. And so probably by the time, when you take everything into account, I think, because where are we now? The 26th, so we have 4 or 5 days left of the month. I think on the whole, September's going to come out slightly warmer than average. Not massively, but slightly.
I think just the difference with this year, it just felt like after the hot, dry summer, it felt like as soon as we were in meteorological autumn, we had all the rain and then things started to feel a bit cooler. So there was just that sudden contrast between autumn and summer. I think that's why people are taking note a bit more about the change in conditions. And it might feel like it's either above or below average, but actually it's probably just round about where we should be for this time of year.
Then one more question before we go. Alfie Law has asked, I miss Annie. Do you know when she's coming back? No, I don't think that's anything to you, Honor.
I see.
But, exciting. Annie is due back very soon. We've got another month before she comes back. But yeah, beginning of November, which ties in nicely with the 1 year anniversary of the Weather Studio Live. So we have Halloween to get through, or Halloween, as you said earlier, and then bonfire night, and then I think is it the 7th or 8th of November, where we'll be marking 1 year of the Weather Studio Live's return and coming back in this format. So that would be a good one, and be great to have Annie back at that point as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, bittersweet.
Bittersweet. I will. Yeah, I've only got a couple of lives left, I think.
Yeah, but you'll be here for the
I'll be here for the
anniversary. And I'm sure, and you're not going far.
No.
So we'll see you around.
You'll still see my face around.
We'll see you around. Thank you so much for watching. It's nearly 1 o'clock, so seems like lunchtime. Or if you're, I know your dad. I think he was eating his leftovers whilst enjoying the Weather Studio Live. Were you eating lunch whilst you watched us? Let us know. Let us know in the comments what you are having. But it's time for us to go grab some food before we go back to the studio to record a variety of other things. You are updating the 14-day outlook shortly, aren't you?
I am. Yeah, we'll have the 14-day outlook on our app.
And then you're doing a TikTok live.
And then I'm doing a TikTok live, probably around 3:30, 4 o'clock. So if your question didn't get answered here, join me on TikTok later and I'll try and answer a few more.
Great. Have a wonderful weekend, whatever you're up to. Do be aware of the weather warnings that we have for the wet weather coming through, particularly eastern Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland for tomorrow, heavy rain. Otherwise, enjoy your weekend and we'll see you again soon.
Bye-bye.